because in about 8 months they can have an election. They're all going to get thrown out.
Canada has an election.
What? Yeah.
Canada's election in about 8 months.
Yeah, and they're going to cave. They're going to cave. They're going to go right, and they're going to do what they did last time, which is smart. They can't sustain a trade war with us. They're not even a rounding error for us. China trade war, tough. China trade war, get ready for a little bit of heartache. China trade war is worth the heartache, though, because you're not having this trade war over money. You're having it over freedom. China has several ways to beat us, and one of it is to be the dominant economic power in the world. But it's more than economic power now. It's the high-tech power, the quantum computing power, the AI power. You can have the greatest military in the world, and if the other guy has a good military, but he's got way superior high technology, he can undercut your entire military. So you need both. And believe it or not, we're ahead in both, but we're in a precarious situation. In both, they're coming up fast, and in certain areas passing us, and in other areas not, but poised to do so. Trump changed the agenda before he even got in there. You saw within a day of being president, tremendous investment by Taiwan in doing massive super chips in America. They were always just done in Taiwan. Terrible problem. And the Taiwanese, smart enough to understand that that's not good for them either. Because if, God forbid, China were to start a war with them, even if China didn't win, it could interrupt the traffic for long periods of time. Now, you move that to Arizona, which is pretty far away from China. And you have a joint interest with the United States, something that the little pipsqueak, couldn't get right away, which cost him Kursk. And I'll explain that in a minute. And I don't know how much they're putting in. Originally, it was what, like 60 trillion, 50 trillion? Now it's up to 100. I mean, like, this is real money. Nobody can count this money. It's like real money. This is what we need to beat them. Now, you tell me where China is going to go for $100 trillion. Where? Russia doesn't have it. The other countries are all beggar countries. Japan's not a beggar country. Saudi Arabia is not a beggar country. South Korea is not a beggar country. Taiwan's not. Those European countries have made themselves that way. If we straighten out one or two, I do not. I expect our alliance in the future to be Eastern Europe, Israel, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, India, 60%, maybe. I don't know, there are a few more, but Eastern Europe, you're going to see some giants emerge from Eastern Europe. Real giants. You're going to see giants for their size, but more than willing to put troops in and die with us, unlike the French, who like to hang back and watch us die, and then they can say they were part of NATO. Not only don't they put their money in, but they don't put their lives in. So I think what Vance did is give them a wake-up call. An alliance in name only, when your enemy knows it's in name only, is a horrible weakness. So frankly, when Trump said we wouldn't defend you if you don't put your money in, he's absolutely right. We got to get rid of the weak links in NATO. I'd rather have them out and have countries in that are putting in their 5%, both in resources and in lives, so they match American lives. Then we have a real tough army, not a bunch of sissies. Sissies lose, tough guys win. And they know that because they're not affected by, do you think the Chinese army every 1 month brings a drag queen in to sensitize their soldiers? Do you really believe that? What about, you think Putin lets drag queens come into his army? Oh, let's be sensitive to drag queens. This way we'll kill the Chinese better. When you protect human lives, you need to be a very, very decent human being. You have to know the rules. You have to be very much attuned to justice. But then on the other hand, you got to be very tough. Otherwise, by that little lack of toughness, costs you 4 or 5 innocent lives. I don't have to say, if you're someone like Biden, what happens. Did you notice today the absolute shock here? So much more of the media. The protesters will be doing this in the next couple of days, but they saw those Trendiaragua animals being sent back to Argentina, along with M13 people who for about 12 years have been cutting heads off in America. They saw them being sent back, and it looked like a rather regimented group of people being sent back. Now, they did not look like people from the Holocaust. They all look in rather good shape, having been in America, taking up food for nothing and being given a credit card by Mayor Adams. Any number of them have killed, raped, murdered, and stolen from our people. Half? A third? More? Big number. Were there a few innocent people among them? I don't know. I would bet none or very few. You know why? Because it's so easy to get the criminal. You see, when you open the doors wide and you say, I'm not gonna even look. That's when they send all the criminals in. The old immigration, they had to worry a little bit. So they would send the criminals in piece by piece. Difference. When Castro did his Mario boat lift, Carter said to him, send me everybody from Cuba. Now, Castro could have done what Maduro did. Just emptied out the jails, emptied out the prison, emptied out the insane asylum, and just sent them with a few people. Castro's smarter than Maduro. I mean, Maduro's always been known to be the dumb bus driver who replaced Chavez and has been screwing the country up since then. The country's virtually starving. And it's got more oil than probably, well, I'm not going to say that. Brazil may have more, but more available oil than anybody in South America. Let's put it that way. And a country that 25 years ago was on the verge of becoming a super wealthy country, destroyed by communism, but our Ivy League schools still teach it. So Maduro didn't even do the Castro thing. Castro sent in 100,000 completely unobjectionable, completely legitimate refugees from communism, most of whom had very strong family connections to enormously good, solid people in America who had fled him a generation earlier and had already established businesses, and ones where you had to say yes. It was the guy's brother, and the guy now has a shoe factory, and he's making a fortune, and he's a great, loyal American, and his son has volunteered for the U.S. Marines because he was afraid to get caught. However, he put in there about 25,000 of unthinkable type criminals. By that, I mean not just the guys off the street, not just the guys out of the prisons, not just the guys out of the insane asylums, but the guys out of the criminally, deeply insane asylums, the people who walk around thinking they're somebody else, the people who walk around thinking they're their father or George Washington or Fidel Castro. Or he sent us, and I'm going to tell you, this is absolutely firsthand information. I was in charge of having to deal with them. That was my job as Associate Attorney General. One of the 2 primary reasons I was hired instead of somebody else. Because as a prosecutor, and would you guess I was very tough. And I finally went down to meet up with them, to see them myself. And I knew the Atlanta prison because when I was a prosecutor, I had to use Atlanta prison for the mafia. Vito Genovese was Atlanta prison. And part of what we did was we had to get prisons for these people right away, because we weren't going to do something like search and release, because we thought only stupid, dumb, insane, paid-off communists did that. Of course, that's what Biden did. We did catch and detain. So we had to build these facilities. So we had a nice jail out in the West, and I moved nicer than Atlanta. I moved everybody out of Atlanta, and I made it a immigration detention facility. Had to get it completely certified differently. And I put them in, and I figured now I got rid of all the mafia guys, and they were in with all the killers. And then I went down to visit, and the warden was a personal friend of mine, and a friend of Norm Coleman, who ran the prison. And we were going to have a nice dinner together. We have dinner with his wife. He's hardly talking to me. Why did you pick me for this? Why didn't you build a new facility for this? I said, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to do it. I get this done in 2 months. That would take me 8. I needed a place to put it. And this can't be bad. You got rid of all those mafia guys. You got rid of all. I had some people who were on death row, and you got rid of them. He said, I dream about them coming back. He said, what? He said, you don't know what these people are like. You have never, I'm going to take you tomorrow to see them. And you've been through prisons. You've never seen prisoners like this. He said, first thing we did, we separated the heterosexuals from the homosexuals. But we didn't realize we had to separate the homosexuals, the aggressive and the submissive. And you thought, well, if you didn't, the aggressive and the submissives, they would have sex and we would try. No, they kill them. I guess the aggressives just want to be with the aggressors. And if they get a submissive homosexual, we've had 3 necks snapped already. And then they throw the body they bring the body out as if we're marching, and then they let it fall as if it died on the line and they're going to fool us. And when they get really angry, they have feces fights. And he said, you can't believe what they're like. I'm ready to retire. Bring me back, Vito Genovese. With that, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Special guest waiting.
Not Vito Genovese.
It's not Vito Genovese.
So we got it. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
This is Rudy Giuliani. We're back with America's Mayor Live, and we have with us, for numerous reasons, not the least of which he's a very prominent Irish American, but also because I want to talk to him a little about someone we know. We don't really know. I don't think either one of us have met him, but we feel like we mutually know Hunter Biden, right?
Better than he does.
I think we know him better than most people, right?
Absolutely true. Yeah.
So tell people who not from New York what St. Patrick's Day is like in New York. It's like one of the biggest days of the year.
It certainly is for the bars. That's for, It's a giant parade. Everybody participates in the parade. And then after the parade, let me see if I can adjust this camera a little bit. After the parade, everybody goes to the local pub and tells stories. That's what happens on St. Patrick's Day.
You're right. And they have the Friendly Sons dinner where about 2,000 lifts and Ubers have to come out and drag the people and stuff the people in them, right?
Absolutely. I went to that for quite a few years. And
I did too.
on the money. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you this about Hunter.
Yeah.
So I've been reading these articles in Epic Times, mostly about how South Africa has become a hub for drug trade. It's like the major hub now for the movement of fentanyl, even to Mexico. It goes through South Africa, and that South Africa has become pretty close to a renegade illegal government. Now, could that have anything to do with Hunter going there?
To be fair to Hunter, his current wife is from South Africa.
I know, but maybe that's how he met her.
Yeah.
So he now has no money.
He has no money and he has no Secret Service protection as of just
Ooh. How many did he have?
18 agents, according to the newspapers.
No.
That's a lot of people on a payroll, and that's a lot of airfares. 18 agents going to South Africa.
Are they with him in South Africa still?
They were. I guess they're now at the airport heading home.
You think South Africa will pick up his protection?
I doubt it.
Well,
He's on his own.
if South Africa were to employ him, it would be the first employment in 40 years that made any sense.
That's true. Yeah.
They'd employ him for his expertise on the drug trade.
Except he doesn't remember.
Tell me your analysis as a great lawyer of these appointments that was signed by a automatic pen.
Wow, that's
Hundreds and hundreds of thousands, I guess.
yeah. The real question is whether or not Joe Biden authorized them. And quite frankly, that's going to be a very tough thing to prove. I guess the assumption will be that he did authorize them, but proving it would be a difficult task because, of course, they're going to cover up everything as they covered up his mental decline for the last 4 years. But especially in the last month. Remember the special counsel, Robert Hur, I think his name was?
Yeah.
He decided not to prosecute Biden because basically Biden couldn't remember anything. And he was very polite and gentle about it. He didn't come out and say the guy is mentally incompetent, and that's why we can't prove our case against him. He did it in a nice way, but certainly the message, which wasn't quite as clear as it should have been at that time, became very clear during the debate with Trump.
Well, the reality is that if he didn't know he was appointing someone, they're not appointing. If he didn't know that he's pardoning somebody, they're not pardoning. Suppose you built a case this way. You look at the dates of the pardons, and then you built around it all the public data that you have on him not knowing who the hell he is. I mean, I don't know when they occurred, but maybe one of them occurred on the same day he thought. Remember when he thought he saw the dead congresswoman who had died 2 weeks earlier? He sent her a condolence letter, and then he's looking, I've forgotten the name, Rachel. He's looking for her in the audience. Rachel's dead. Or when he turns around the wrong way 3-4 times, right? Doesn't seem to know where he is.
I don't know where he is. Yeah.
So suppose that around those times you could put together 4 or 5 of those, and you showed that he did 400 of these things by spot pen, and somebody says, well, he didn't sign any of them.
Right.
You might have a circumstantial case, unless somebody is willing to lie. I guess there always is somebody, and says he authorized them.
Yeah, you would have a circumstantial case, and the people in the
We're having trouble hearing it.
right at the end of his administration. and that is Hunter Biden and the rest of the Biden family. Those are the people in the most jeopardy here about this.
Yeah, and he did like about 2,000 or something right at the end.
Right, quite a few. I don't know the exact number, but neither does
There's no possible way he went through 2,000.
he. Certainly handwrite them. Even if he was sitting next to the machine doing it, he has no concept of who was getting pardoned or what they were being pardoned for. Well, then again, he just pardoned everybody in the Biden family for crimes that they weren't charged with.
Yeah, and he let out a couple of crazy ones that you would think even he wouldn't. He let out a couple of people with murder.
Right.
You wonder if those got slipped past him. Got
No doubt. Yeah.
It almost seemed like with the big numbers and the fact that he wasn't doing it, they could slip in some really dangerous criminals.
And they did.
Yeah.
I believe there were a couple of murderers in there.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that Biden would have pardoned.
No, but there are now 43 cop killers walking around New York since Andrew Cuomo signed the parole change in 2019. And he's running for mayor.
Wow.
He's running for mayor from New York to fix
Right.
screw it up. That's an interesting way to do it, right?
Exactly. But look who they have there now. I mean, Eric Adams isn't the star that Rudy Giuliani was. None of them have been since you, with the possible exception of your immediate successor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he carried on. The city, you could say the city had a golden age from 94 to about 2010.
Right.
That's a long time, but now it's terrible and it's completely corrupt.
No question about it. Right. But we'll see whether Eric Adams can survive this. I don't think he can. I think that Cuomo, on name recognition, will probably get elected. And then we'll have different problems than we have right now.
Well, we'll be talking, Bob. There are a lot of things we still have to go over. And there's plenty left to the Biden investigation.
Yeah.
And there are ways to get even if the pardons turn out to be valid, there are a lot of things you can do with them. Like they all have to testify, right?
Well, that's why Hunter Biden dropped his case against the Marco Polo guy, Garrett Ziegler. Dropped the case. The judge made him drop the case with prejudice because he was avoiding his deposition. I mean, since he was pardoned, he doesn't have a Fifth Amendment right. And so therefore, that deposition could have really opened up a Pandora's box. And I'm certain that was the motivating factor. So much that he is broke because he claimed, he said, my house was destroyed in the fires in Los Angeles. That was absolutely untrue. And the house wasn't his, he was renting in any event. So it comes out of the guy's mouth is another lie.
What would be the easiest thing to do would be to investigate the one or two times they told the truth.
That's true. 1 or 2 times. By the way, talking about the Hunter Biden hard drive just for a moment. This is the original.
That's the one the FBI didn't want. But I had the cop. But I had the copy.
This is the one that came from John Paul McIsaac.
The ones you gave me were a little bigger.
Well, that's just the size of the hard drive. Right?
Yeah, I had two, and I had one. I had one with the child pornography and one without. So I offered it to them. I said, "Now we've gotten down to the last things here, and this will be exciting because this has incriminating evidence on it." And they looked at me like I'm crazy identifying stuff with incriminating evidence. I said, "Yeah, well, those are Hunter Biden's hard drive. Let me take a look. Yeah, this is the one with the child pornography, and this is the one without. You want both of them?" Said, no.
You might remember, Rudy, the day that, or the early morning hours that the FBI came to your apartment and they were searching. And the FBI agent got on the phone with me. I think it was 6:20 in the morning, and you were sitting right there. And I said to him, "Listen, this is a legitimate question. I'm not insulting your intelligence, but do you know what?" And he said, yes. And I said, can you describe it to me? And he did. I said, now go into Mayor Giuliani's office, and on his desk, you will see 2 hard drives. And he said, yeah. I said, those are Hunter Biden's hard drives. He touched those. They had a search warrant that called for them to grab every electronic device in your apartment, which they did, except for those hard drives. They treated it like they were radioactive. Now, there was no way to real Hunter Biden's hard drives, except by me telling them that, because they plug them into a computer, took our word for that, and they wouldn't touch them. Remember that?
Yeah, I know. It could have contained.
Yeah.
It could have contained all the incriminating evidence we were hiding on Donald Trump,
Exactly. Not
and they
only,
wouldn't have known the difference.
but it also corroborated everything that you had done in Ukraine a year or 2 years before that you were being investigated for. Everything that you said about Ukraine and Burisma and the Bidens turned out to be the truth. Does anybody acknowledge that now? They should.
Yeah, well, I mean, somebody should put kind of remind everybody that little guy Zelensky knows everything and is hiding it, sitting on it, knows everything. He could blow the whole thing up in our country, his country. He could save that woman who wants to come forward and turn over the offshore bank accounts that the FBI has been ignoring for 5 years.
Jonna Leeson.
Yeah.
The widow of the half owner of Burisma. Right. She's produced a video that is very important. And again, the FBI, at least the old FBI, now that Kash Patel is there, maybe they'll have a whole change of heart. But there's plenty of material on that that's important. It also relates to Alexander Smirnov. Alexander Smirnov was the longtime FBI cooperator, supposedly the best cooperator the FBI had, the highest paid, who told the FBI that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden split $10 million from Burisma early on. Now, what they did was they forced this guy, Smirnov, they charged him with lying to the FBI, and they forced him into taking a plea. We have evidence, Jonna Leeson has evidence that supports exactly what that guy, Alexander Smirnov, said, that's reported in a FBI, 1023 report. So
Now, they use that to back off Coomer and scare the living daylights out of him. Here's what I don't understand about Coomer.
right.
He never made an attempt to meet with her. And she's a no-brainer deal. She says, I'll give you the bank accounts, and then you have to produce for me. So if she's lying, you just kick her out.
Right.
I mean, when we were prosecutors, you don't get too many deals like this. Person comes forward and says, I'll prove to you all the evidence I want to give you, and then you have to give me my part of the deal. Usually you got to do it a little at a time.
Right.
So we thought when we left Pittsburgh almost 5 years ago,
Right.
you and I were both very enthusiastic that the Pittsburgh U.S. Attorney's Office and FBI were going to follow up on that. And then they were pestering you for a while to get it quicker than we could. And then they stopped.
Right. Somebody told them to stop. That's why. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And now what I don't get is why didn't the House committee go after that? Why did the House committee not go after, and why did the House committee not emphasize the emails about how Hunter was giving half the money all his life to Joe? That explains the whole conspiracy.
Question about it. Yeah. He was talking to his daughter in explaining that to her, saying, listen, and he thought nobody in the world would ever see that communication. And he said, listen, unlike Pops, that was the name for Joe Biden, I'm not going to make you, that's Hunter's daughter, give me 50% of everything that you make. And as you know, I've been paying all the bills for the entire family for the last 30 years. Now, he's not going to lie to his daughter, and he thinks nobody's ever going to see that. That is great proof of exactly what you were saying in 2018 coming back from Ukraine.
Now, you can't find that in the Republican House Committee report. Why? Nor can you find anything about the lady with the offshore bank accounts. They never. Why?
Well, it's on the
Did they
Hunter.
get scared?
Yeah.
Did you try to work with them? I mean, were they scared or?
I don't know what they were, but they didn't follow through. That's what they didn't do. And we're paying the price today. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly paid the price. You're still paying the price. Donald Trump paid the price. And indirectly, I'm paying the price too.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people are. It's terrible.
Mhm.
It's terrible. You know, on their side, I know the motive. I don't understand when our people back off at the very last minute. You know, they'll go for some of the evidence, but the really good evidence, they conceal it to help the Democrats. I don't get it. But only you and I seem to know this, and nobody else seems to care.
Well, hopefully Cash Patel will care. And
Oh, you picked a good one. Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. Well, Bob, let's keep in touch. Happy St. Patrick's Day to one of my very favorite Irishmen and your beautiful family,
Thank you.
and one of our most patriotic.
Okay. You have a good.
All
Thank
right, take care.
Thanks, Bob.
God bless.
Thank you.
You can't believe the guts that guy has. Jesus, if maybe one or two people in Congress had the guts he has, we wouldn't be in this position. But what I'm pointing out is I went through the Comer thing. I don't understand it. I don't understand. He writes these contorted descriptions of what they did. And maybe because I don't like to say maybe because he's not a lawyer. Lawyers are stupid as hell. I mean, most people that are not lawyers are smarter than lawyers. Lawyers get all screwed up. Their heads, I think, something happens. All the things get moved around and all that thing. I do not get why, if a woman is telling you 5 years ago, I have all the evidence of all of the offshore bank accounts of Burisma. Burisma is the $40 billion, totally crooked, Ukrainian oil gas company. It was created by a government official of Ukraine by taking the property away from others and giving it to his company while he remained hidden he was like the Minister of Energy, and he kept his friend there running it. When he came out of government, having allegedly stolen by the Ukrainian government $20 billion, laundered by Mr. Kolomoisky of Privat Bank. I know these names are tough, but Mr. Kolomoisky is Zelensky's rabbi. Now, if you don't know what that means, you don't come from New York. It means he was the guy who took care of him, the guy who gave him millions, the guy who gave him billions, and the guy who gave him his stupid, ridiculous, idiotic television show that made little Zelensky, using his platform heels, popular. So Zelensky owes everything to one of the 3 or 4 most crooked men in the second crookedest country in the world, and the one who may be the most valuable because he knows where all the private bank accounts are, including of the Bidens, because he laundered every laundering transaction that I have goes through Privat Bank, which is Kolomoisky's bank, meaning Zelensky's godfather's bank. A woman came forward 5 years ago and said, I'm willing to testify against them if you get me protection because they'll kill me. And I have all the records. I kept them for 5, 6 years, even longer. My husband used to be a part owner of Burisma, and he was, under very suspicious circumstances, killed right after Zlochevsky came out of prison. Her husband owned 51% of Burisma, and Zlochevsky owned 49%. Right now, Zlochevsky owns 90% of Burisma. She owns none of Burisma, and he's given 10% to various people. In other words, he cheated her out of her inheritance because he fixed the court. She also was deathly afraid of him because these people are, you got to put a couple of things together. They're oligarchs, whatever that means, that's their expression, but they're organized criminals and they're murderers. So I can't accuse Zelensky of killing his partner But when his partner and he got back together again, part owned 51%. Every Friday after work, they go drinking with all the pals that ultimately got a piece of the business. And they send him home drunk in his car, driving down an extraordinarily dangerous road. But 3 times he made it. The 4th time he hit a tree and he died. And Zelensky was ready to take over. Nicole Moisky was ready to take over the whole company, which he did. So she is a very bitter woman. He deprived her of her inheritance. Don't know exactly how, but we're talking about the second most corrupt country in the world. Still that way. And he gave her a nice job with a very, very good salary. And he gave her a big lump of cash, but nothing commensurate with half to 51% of the holdings of a $40 billion company. So obviously the woman was somewhat bitter. So what she did was, for the next 4 years, 5 years, she kept a record of what she was in charge of, all of the accounting. And I assume that's how his partner met her. And I think she was a late in life marriage. So she kept records and she developed allies. And when she was ready to talk to the FBI, she had pictures of all the allies, the ones willing to talk and the ones not willing to talk. A couple that were already in America. Now, when I was a U.S. attorney or assistant U.S. attorney, I never got anything like this, ever. I'm going to tell you, and I am arrogant as hell about my skill as a prosecutor. I could have made that case in 2 weeks. I could look at these people's faces and know I could turn them. It wouldn't even be hard. I mean, I wouldn't even have to get any sleep the night before. We'd have had 5 witnesses, and here's what they promised. The Bidens had several offshore bank accounts, and I was told by one of the honest police officials in Ukraine, this is why they want to kill you. I said, what? This is they want to kill you and Trump. I said, why? He said, because when you open this up, what do you think? It's just going to be the Bidens? You don't think that starting with Obama, they were feasting on Ukraine? And every time you come here and lecture us on, since Obama became president, every time you come here and lecture us on honesty in government, we laugh like crazy. You're the biggest damn crooks. If we're dishonest, if we're the second most corrupt country in the world and Russia's the most, you're 1.5. But I will tell you, there are fewer Republicans. I said, well, what does that say to you? It says to me, your party is corrupt, but you take the chicken feed. You take whatever crumbs the really corrupt party wants. But you got a couple bad ones. But they got a lot of bad ones. I said, will you tell me who they are? No, I don't want to be. If promise me if I tell you who you are, you won't try to subpoena me. I can't promise you that. Oh, well, then I'm not going to tell you. But if this girl ever gives you these records, it's going to blow everything up. And you better get it. You better get it because they're going to kill her. Now, in that period of time, they tried to kill Slotkin. So he's the prosecutor. He's a prosecutor that could directly testify that he was thrown out of office because he wouldn't stop investigating Hunter Biden and Zlochevsky. They tried to kill him. They poisoned him. Typical Ukrainian, Russian method of killing. Poisoned somebody. Wow. Come on. She's now hiding. She's still there. And now the test comes. Will they go interview her? Will the new FBI go interview her, protect her? Now, I guess there's a chance she's lying. No, nothing lost. We find out right away. You give me the numbers, I'll go check them for you. If the numbers are wrong, bye-bye. If the numbers are right, according to them, 20% of Washington goes to jail. And a very surprising 20%. And maybe, just maybe, when you do things like this, you shake them up for a generation or two so they don't do it. But when you let them get away with it, they just keep doing it. I'm convinced that if we had gone after Comey and Strzok and his mistress and McCabe, and we had put them all in jail, it would have stopped a good deal of this. Trump would have faced many less problems in the last 2 or 3 years. But we looked like weaklings. it's no different than when bin Laden declared war on us, hit the USS Cole, killed Marines. And Clinton's response was to not pay attention to it, to spend all his time, lifting up Arafat's stupid thing around his head and kissing him, and bombing empty fields. I never knew they had that many empty fields to bomb. He bombed 6 times and never killed anybody. So bin Laden, who was, without whatever else you think of him, a maniac, a killer, a murderer, a religious zealot, smart man. He said, this guy is, I guess we call them like paper tigers, right? I call them cowards, sissies, guys who have diarrhea too much, that kind of stuff. So he said, let me take the big shot. They won't do anything. Let me see if I can take out and symbolically show that their economic empire is worth shit. I'll hit the World Economic Center. And their political thing is worth nothing. I'll hit the Congress. And their military isn't even defendable. I'll hit the Pentagon. And I'll shake the hell out of these cowardly bunch of people. Because he sees us as Clinton, who spends his time not defending America, but you know what he was doing in the White House, right? In the Oval Office. He wasn't using the Oval Office for planning attacks on bin Laden. He was using the Oval Office to planning attacks on subordinate women, right? Which the feminists loved. They thought that was just great. I've never understood that. I mean, I was told by several feminists that there's a distinction. But whenever anybody tells me there's a distinction and spends 3 hours trying to figure out what it is, I know they're liars. But I mean, Clinton had 2 things in mind. One of them I can't mention on television. And the other was getting a peace treaty with Arafat. And Arafat made a total fool out of him. Total fool. When he offered Arafat everything he wanted, including selling out Israel, Arafat said, Bill, if the war ends, I don't get any more money, right? I think Mrs. Arafat needs another 3-4 bill to really take care of herself in the south of France. About 3 more years. 3 more years, 3 more bill, we're okay. Let's have a little more war. Now, whether Clinton could figure that out, couldn't figure it out, his ego got in the way, he wasn't smart enough. Now, I figured that out in 1992. And a lot of people figured it out in 1992. I don't understand. And we're still doing the 2-state solution. But before I conclude tonight, I have got to destroy somebody. My conscience requires it. Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is on the level. This is not. We're not talking crime now. We're talking morality. But on a moral level, he's just as bad as Benedict Arnold. He is a unbelievable, miserable traitor to his own people. And I think it would be hard for me to be in the same room with him. Because I despise people like that. I despise traitors. I despise disloyal people. This man interfered in the Israeli election at a critical time and tried to displace Netanyahu. Now, had he succeeded, Hamas would still be very powerful, getting ready for their second attempt to kill Jewish women and children. Hezbollah would still be this paper tiger that we thought completely protected Iran, that Bibi eliminated in 2 weeks. 3. Assad would still be sitting in Syria protecting Iran and being part of the Iranian empire. And the Houthis would not have gotten attacked today and on the verge of being wiped out. You know what you just did? You took away every Iranian proxy. And you also put in a president who said very, 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 very telling words today. He said, I've never bought it, meaning I've never been an idiot like or a traitor like my predecessor. Never bought that it wasn't you, Iran. But now there's nobody left. Those attacks on Americans were done by you. I don't care where they come from. The next time they come from you. And if you do it, you'll never be able to do it again. So don't have to believe me. I would suggest you do. I know him. That's going to last until the time he feels he's ready to do it at maximum capability, just like it has with the Houthis today, in which he blew the shit out of them. Out of nowhere, just blew the shit out of them, like he did to the Syrians when Xi Jinping was sitting next to him, and he got up and he bombed the hell out of them. It was the end of the war. I don't think Xi Jinping has still gotten over it. A couple more like that will remind Putin and Xi Jinping. And then you'll see these things move. But you have to have subtlety. You have to know that if I've got an implacable enemy like Putin, I'm not going to move Putin by directly threatening him. I can make him tougher if you do that. I'm not going to do that with Xi Jinping either. But if he sees me in 2 days wipe out the Houthis who have been there for 8 years, he does the same thing Xi Jinping did when he saw America wipe out Syria in 2 days. I think Obama took 3 years and still didn't do it. Trump did it in 2 days. Xi Jinping goes home like this. Maybe he'll do that to us. I don't know if I should push this guy around because none of them want to die. They don't want to die. Ted, let's tell him the story. I always tell this story. It probably is the best insight into the president's thinking, and I'm not even sure he knew it was. We were talking to him before he was president about what he was saying, that the attack on Ukraine could not have taken place when he was president because he and Putin had an understanding. And we asked him, well, what did you say to him?
Right.
He said, well, it's part of how you act and it's part of who you are. But I used to say to him, I just add a little something to it just in case. I'd kind of push him a little. Like, he didn't say rib him or tease him, but like irritate him a little. He'd say, Vladimir, you better not take any more of Ukraine under me. Because I would feel terrible. I'd feel terrible because Moscow has those pretty, I don't even know what they are, but those pretty gold things, all up when you see Moscow, you see all these gold things. And I love building. And I don't think we have one of those in New York. I've always thought maybe we should have one. I would feel really bad if you attacked Ukraine and I had to bomb Moscow, off the face of the earth. So Putin would say to him, would you do that? He said, well, my ego would require it. So we said to him, do you think he really believed you? And he said, 10%. That's all you need. All I need is when he thinks he's going to come after me, maybe this guy's a little crazy. Maybe he talks about isolating, but his ego is so great that was the genius of Ronald Reagan. That's how Ronald Reagan won the Cold War without firing a shot. They also knew you push them too far. And they know something that sometimes we don't know. And we shouldn't even count on because it's always better to underestimate rather than overestimate. We're a hell of a lot more powerful than they are. And we're so much smarter when we want to apply it. And now that we're getting rid of the distractions caused by the drag queens, we'll be even with Pete Hegseth. All the drag queens do is take you away from precision bombing and making sure you kill the right people, or you plan the extraction so you don't have to wait while people have hostages and we don't negotiate with them. We go in and we take out our hostages and we murder all of them. You know how fast that will end hostages? Like that. And our special forces have somewhere around a 95% success rate, which tells you if that's true, and had we used them on day one with coward Biden, we would have saved a lot more people because we lost a lot more than 95%. Than 5%. Well, Ted, what do we miss?
Mayor?
What do we miss tonight?
Well, of course, the astronauts that are stuck in space had a nice message for President Trump and Elon Musk. They
Elon the devil. Isn't Elon a demon? Remember, he used to be such a nice guy.
they loved him.
He was going to save climate change with electric vehicles.
Yeah, that's right.
And now he got involved with that Trump
True.
and he wants to save money. I mean, he's against
And now he wants
waste and fraud, I can see. But as a Democrat, I mean, waste and abuse, I can see. But against the Democrat, what the hell are we going to do if he does away with fraud?
right,
Be no money in politics.
right.
Ted,
We're taking a quick break.
Ted, you look too confused.
Well, we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Ted looks
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Conked.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Well, St. Patrick's Night, and this is a lovely Irish girl that I have with me, the Shamrock of Tulane. Allison
Irish via Vietnam and America.
from Vietnam. And we were going to talk about many things because she's a super tech expert, super tech genius, does all kinds of business, tremendous business success, great understanding of tech and national security.
I'm so humbled.
Yeah, but it's all true, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, thank you.
All right. Okay.
Drink some more Jameson. Go ahead.
I haven't had a single check straight drop to drink.
How can it be Irish coffee without Jameson?
I said I haven't had. You got to. Despite the fact that you disbarred me in every liberal jurisdiction, you have to realize I'm still a lawyer, which means that there's this necessity of being sneaky, and that's why I said I haven't had a straight drop to drink. That doesn't mean I didn't have a mixed drop to drink. That's my way out.
Fantastic. Well, I can tell you're a lawyer,
Yeah.
exceptional lawyer. You just
I'm sneaky. So I want to ask a question before we get to anything else, because you and I have talked about this weekend,
Mhm.
and that is people don't know that there are available to us in Southeast Asia a lot of possible allies, semi-allies, half allies that could check China at home, not just, in Europe or in Asia. People would think because of Vietnam that China and Vietnam must be very close. Tell us now, as a Vietnamese, I know this really well. So, but I don't think people might understand this. Explain the long-term relationship between China and Vietnam.
Well, you're an international security expert, so you know this better than everyone else. But the thing is that with Vietnam, you think, oh, it's a communist country. China is a communist country. But we have to understand that there are different types of communism. The way that it's practiced in Vietnam is more or less very capitalistic. It's a market economy there. It's just communism in name, right? And so people think, well, but all Asian people look alike. They're all good in math. And so maybe they could conflate Vietnamese people with China. But in fact, we've had thousands of years of history where it's very adversarial, and the Vietnamese people have a unique independent identity outside of China. It's like the Israel of Asia. They have a strong cultural identity. They want to be their own people. And for thousands of years, you've seen so many wars. Actually, Genghis Khan tried to invade Vietnam and they were not able to. And they had such a huge army and they invaded all these massive countries and they were able to conquer them. But small little Vietnam, Genghis Khan and his grandson, Kublai Khan, which, by the way, I'm a direct descendant, so I don't know how I can be when they didn't conquer. Maybe they conquered a small part. I'm not sure, but the DNA testing shows I am a direct descendant of Kublai Khan.
I'm not disbarred in Vietnam. I could take your case in Vietnam.
Yes,
We could try to get all that Kublai Khan back.
Xanadu. I want to reclaim my royal heritage and the ancient castle, one of the most ancient castles and property.
Ted would go on this adventure with me, wouldn't he?
Oh my goodness.
Mongolia, let's go.
You have just touched on the one country. People say to me, they get totally whacked out when I say this. Is there any country that you want to go back to more than any other? And the answer is about 10. Obviously I love my own heritage, Italy, but I used to love going to England. Now that it's turned into Sharia law, I don't go back. I go to England only if you pay me a great deal of money. France, the same thing. Germany, the same thing. I go to Eastern Europe.
And what about Ireland? They've really opened up their borders. It's almost like
I would go to Ireland to try, like St. Patrick's, to try to save them and bring them back to being a strict Catholic country. They were such a beautiful country when I was in Ireland. I told you I was brought up in an Irish, Italian, Jewish tradition, but the school tradition was Irish. The nuns were Irish Catholic. The children were half Italian, half Irish, and a little bit Polish. But we all were brought up as Irish. Like, if I didn't know the score of the Notre Dame game on Monday morning, the nun would hit me with a ruler. So I don't know if I was brought up more of a Catholic or a Notre Dame fan, but it was the same thing. When I had to be an altar boy.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I wanted to be because I was let out of class. So I volunteered to be chief altar boy. And then at one time, they had the older altar boys doing the funerals because the younger altar boys would get scared of the funerals. So they come into the class and we say, I was like in, I don't know, 5th grade, or I was like a little baby. And they said, we need one of the altar boys has to volunteer for the funeral. And I'm thinking, funeral, what's the difference? It's a funeral, and I'll have an hour and a half out of class. And they take me over and I do the funeral. I swear to God, I didn't sleep in 4 days. So all I'm thinking about is the casket and the thing. It really scared me. Funeral scared me. Priests were all in black. I'm used to the priests wearing white and red and purple. I knew all the liturgical colors. I used to memorize them so I'd get it right.
A great
Now
student.
all of a sudden he's in black. In those days, they used to do the mass in black. You remember that, right? The mass in black. Man, it was scary as hell. And then this was one, I don't even remember what it was, but it was like a woman who died, and she had about 2 or 3 children. I think it started my thing about children, which used to be very tough on 9/11. All the children are crying, and the grandparents are crying. And here I am, 9 years old, 10 years old, kind of trying to remember the prayers I'm supposed to answer. So we finish it, and I had another young kid with me, and he said, I'm never coming back. It's better to be in school. I said, that's right. But 3 weeks later, they come by again. Anybody want to come and do the mass? You have to be out of class for an hour and a half. I'm thinking, funeral? We'll probably get in trouble and get hit by the nun. I'll take the funeral. So I became a very, very good funeral altar boy.
Anything you study, you become an expert with. I had the privilege of being taught by the mayor golf this weekend at Trump International for 3 hours, and there was no leaf or stone left unturned. He gave us a great tour.
Got to do a lot of work yet. We didn't get into putting. No one will believe this, because when they start golf, it's the one thing they can really probably do easiest, because they have a hard time with the turn of the club, and they have a hard time with then moderating that for a chip or a short shot. And honestly, at the beginning, that's all very hard. And putting is relatively easy. You've gone to putt, just push the ball along. When you get moderately good, I'm not saying great, moderately good at golf, putting becomes the hardest thing.
Yeah.
The rest of it, you'll do okay. If you make a mistake, you can make up for it. Worst thing with a putt is it's the last thing you do. You miss an easy putt, you just added a point you don't need. And it is very hard to do on a good golf course, because the greens are not what they seem to be. They're like this.
Trump International is a very technical golf course, and I appreciated the tour. The first step for me was just to understand the course. I am an untraditional learner, and I appreciate
your I haven't seen you swing yet. We got to get her to swing. Yeah. All I have to do is look at your swing 10 times, and I'll tell you if you can be a good golfer.
Mm-hmm.
This all comes about not because I'm a very good golfer. I'm a very good teacher. My son, I was told when my son was very young that he had a great gift for golf by his doctor. And I thought the doctor...
This is Andrew?
Andrew. And I thought the doctor was just, your child's a genius. And he said, go play with him. And I said, doctor, I hate the game. I hate it. I'm a baseball player. Everybody claims baseball's too slow. Mm-hmm. Golf is backwards. And the reality is that I wouldn't be able to sit. He said, just get in a cart, go out there, hit a few balls, and watch him play. You're going to be surprised how good he is. I said, okay. I went out, I played with him. I was shocked at how good he was. He was only 8 at the time.
Hmm.
And I was shocked at how bad I was. So I then spent the next 2 to 3 years teaching myself golf. I was a mayor, and I would buy books.
Hmm.
I would buy DVDs. I had a little section of Gracie Mansion set aside for just me with a little television and a place where I could chip and putt. And I learned it didactically, which means I wasn't as good. I was okay when I wasn't as good, but I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. Sometimes Andrew taught his wife how to play golf, and she would get frustrated with him because he would get frustrated she couldn't get it. And he would turn her over to me and say, Dad, you show her. You have more patience. Well, of course I had more patience because I'm not that good. And I could see what she was doing wrong because I did it wrong. He never did it wrong because he skipped that. He has a muscle memory of golf.
Hmm. Yeah,
So-
you find that when kids learn something at a very young age and they're naturally good at it, what I really appreciate is that
Trump learned very, very young.
Mhm.
Trump can look down the golf course very, very quickly and just know from thousands of times playing since he was 6 years old exactly the cub, how he's going to take the swing. And you'll
very
notice
intuitive, very
he takes-
intuitive.
he takes one practice swing and then he hits. Boom.
Hmm.
I have to calculate all kinds of things that I learned. And here's what that does. It makes you tense. And the only thing that screws up a golf shot is being tense.
Well, I think it makes you a better teacher because
Better
then
teacher, but not as good a player.
well, you're a better player than me, but I appreciate that you learn later in life and then you're able to break it down to a beginner like me. And I notice that with any topic, whether it's golf, it's politics, it's law, you're able to break it down, something very complex, and be able to educate your audience about it.
Maybe
So that's a gift in itself, Mayor.
maybe they'll take me into the teachers union.
The New York City Teachers Union,
the Communist-
Socialist Republic
The
of
communist
New York
teacher-
City.
the communist teachers union. Damn old communist teachers union. So Ted,
Yeah.
what's coming up that we have to focus our friends on so that they pay attention?
Well, tomorrow, of course, we're all awaiting the big call between the president and Mr. Putin. They're expected to talk tomorrow and discuss. The word wasn't exchange, but they were going to discuss certain assets, some territory, specifically power plants, and that call, that much anticipated call, is expected to happen tomorrow. They're going to, on the table for discussion, includes Ukraine's power plants and a number of other issues.
So I want people to look at the television screen, and I want them to look at the face on the television screen. And I want them to tell me who that is. Oh, it says it, unfortunately.
It doesn't.
Oh,
Is
it
that
does.
me?
Oh, good. It's got something different there. Yeah, good. That's you.
Okay. It says Allison Wynn.
Yeah, we should take that off.
Who is that?
Is that Dylan Roof?
What?
No, that's one of the shooters.
That's
it's one of the shooters.
assassin number one.
That's right.
Right,
It's
that's right.
assassin number one. But see how long it took us to
Yeah.
see how long it took us to identify that? That's how little they cover it.
This is the only person in all of America's 360 million people who has no presence online. Huh. We don't know anything about him. He was a ghost.
That's the point. So the point the mayor is highlighting here is that
I don't
You know-
trust the FBI investigation one bit. Explain to me why an organization that tried to frame him 2 or 3 times for crimes he didn't commit would conduct an honest investigation of the attempt to murder him when there were 3 or 4 key people that should be the subjects of their investigation. Here's how they're taught. Well, the FBI is not very good at doing homicides anyway. Think about it. Homicides happen in local jurisdictions. The FBI occasionally investigates a homicide. When you occasionally investigate something, you're not very good at it. When you investigate it every day, you're good at it. Like, would you rather go to a doctor that conducts a heart transplant operation once every 2 years, or once he does 3 a day and they all survive? Well, you know the answer to that. So I knew this because by the time I became United States Attorney, I knew the strengths and weaknesses of the local police and the strengths and weaknesses of the FBI. He never investigated a homicide case. And I had to do many of them under RICO with the FBI because I know more about homicide investigations than they did. So I took New York City homicide detectives to do it. What's the FBI doing investigating this? Even if they were square and on the money, they do a horrible investigation. They do not, don't get upset, FBI. You do not do homicide investigations really well. Local police do. For your 4 or 5, 10, 20, 30 a year, New York City Police Department was doing 2,000 a year. Also, they're bigger than you are. You're 12,000 agents. They're 34,000 cops. We've got a lot more resources than you. Well, in any event, they're doing nothing with this. Nothing. They don't know anything about this guy, as far as I know. Nothing online. The parents are being let off. There are the parents right there. Nope. They will talk to nobody. They never leave their house. They don't know shit. They don't know nothing. Nobody knows anything. Kid was a really good kid. Just wanted to kill the president. I mean, gee, isn't that? That's then every single thing that could be done wrong in Butler County was done wrong. The very short report to write would be what the Secret Service did right in Butler County. The big report is what they did wrong. On purpose? Or just the worst reckless screw up of every single thing you could do wrong ever? Well, I don't know. You have to at least indulge me and say, let's pretend let's pretend it was done recklessly. So now, dare I ask a question, which is the first question you ask in any homicide? I'm teaching you a homicide course now. What's the first question you ask in a homicide? Who has the biggest motive? Who has the biggest motive? Who had the biggest motive to kill Donald J. Trump at Butler? Biggest motive. It could be more than one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, was Joe Biden out by then? Oh, well, there's one.
Mm-hmm.
China? First president ever in Republican government go after China. They've been known to kill 100 million people. Gee. You say, well, Biden, I went to the president over a year before with Bernie Kerik, having come to the conclusion they've done everything to you, Mr. President, they can do. They're now going to try to kill you. He said, who? I said, your opponents. Bernie really got me to see it. Because it's very hard for me to think somebody would commit murder. He said they've done everything they can to him, right? To stop him from being president. Yep. What haven't they done? They haven't killed him. He said, you think they're morally capable of it? Way beyond that, yeah. They're a completely perverted, horrible family. And the group is horrible with the Clintons and would they murder him for power, money, greed? Whew. Yeah, if they could get away with it. And that's when we went to him and told him to be more careful. We actually went to him and warned him.
Mm-hmm.
And even after that happened, I was very, very worried he wouldn't make it to the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the one came along over here, which we took a little look at how close he came to being killed yesterday.
Yes,
went
we
on the
did.
wall. I mean, that one is another one. This guy traveled all over the world This guy traveled all over the world. And ended up there shooting at the president.
He was
hiding
in plain sunlight right there at the intersection.
I don't think you have any idea how easy it would have been for him to kill the president if that one Secret Service agent didn't see the gun hidden behind the bushes and in the fence. Had he walked, he was the scout agent out front. So the president's back on hole number 5, finishing. Agent's walking up. He sees a little gun, and he begins shooting right away at only 30 feet. So a couple of questions. Why did he shoot right away rather than try to examine? I guess he thought maybe he'd get shot. But how did he miss? sorry, agent, you did a really brave thing, but you got to try something else other than shooting. The guy's 30 feet away. Ooh. Well, the guy takes off. They don't catch him for an hour. Then it turns out the guy's traveled to about 5 different countries. He's got accounts in different countries, like the other guy did, but they don't mean anything. There's nothing. These are accounts they set up all over the world, just to I don't know, to go around and tell their friends I have account in Kazakhstan.
It's very suspicious that it wasn't investigated in more depth. And I also find that it was suspicious that a lot of the media, they didn't even call it an assassination.
No, they tried very, very hard at the beginning to say he wasn't even shot. They said he was grazed, he wasn't shot.
Mm-hmm.
They rarely refer to it, either one of them, as an assassination attempt. The Marxists have understood the power of words
Mm-hmm.
and the changing of the meaning of words and the repetition of words, the lack of repetition in brainwashing.
Yeah, words matter, and they really matter on the internet when you're using Google, all that type of stuff. You need to put in the right keywords, and there were a lot of issues with that.
Yeah, well, we're not letting this go. I saw this almost happen to Ronald Reagan, and I'm the one who arrested Hinckley.
Yeah.
And I also put into effect some of the new measures to protect the president, which are long gone now and much improved. And I will tell you, I'd swear on a stack of Bibles that there's no way you could possibly have carried out that botched up security of Trump and not have done it for some purpose. There's no such thing as you let a man walk on a roof when a president or presidential candidate is going to speak. No such thing. There is no such thing as you carry on an event when there is a person who's under suspicion for an hour and 15 minutes. You cancel the event. So we're going to take a short break, right? Or are we not?
We're going to stay on here. We want to thank Allison, a good friend of the show. Thank you, Allison, for joining us. A good friend of the show. We'll have you on again very soon. All things tech, AI, and just whenever we want to learn more about the Democrat Party, she's someone we can come to. As a former member, the mayor was too, but by the time Obama came around, the mayor was very much a Republican.
It indicates how independent and intelligent she is.
Oh,
So-
most of Americans are very intelligent and independent.
Thank you, Allison. So, Mayor, we're going to stay on with you here
Okay.
and bring on our next guest. Thank you, Allison. Always a pleasure having Allison on the show. Our next guest, we're gonna rapid fire a couple people here. I know we're running well into soccer time. We have a nice big audience, so we want to get a few folks on. We have Aiden O'Connor. She's actually the founder of Party, and Aiden here is going to tell us about Party. She's someone I've known for a very long time, going back to when I was with the
This is a sensitive microphone.
when I was
You
the
probably
Daily
know
Caller.
that.
We met so about eight or 9 years ago. A recovering Canadian. No, I'm kidding.
Almost American, I prefer to call myself.
Good.
So I founded Party. It's an event. It's the country's only patriotic event management and ticketing platform. I founded it when
What's the name of it?
Party, Partea. Party Events is the website. And I founded the company when I saw conservative events being canceled off our competitors. There was a Trump rally canceled. There was Matt Walsh, Riley Gaines events canceled, all of our favorites. And not only that, I actually saw some of the data being used and given to the Biden administration. And a lot of the guests who attended more conservative events were being investigated as radicals. So I figured conservatives, not even just conservatives, but patriotic Americans need a place to keep their data safe, where they can have events where we can meet and keep America great, just as Donald Trump is doing. So I founded Party, and we've hosted a number of events. We do the ticketing, the payment processing, all sort of the boring online
So
stuff.
you do the event for the event that they're going to cancel?
Yeah. So instead of when events are canceled, they come to us.
Okay.
And we have the patriotic events.
So give me an example.
Well, we're doing a screening of a pro-life movie this week.
And was it supposed to have an opening and they wouldn't give it one?
Yeah, there are a lot of places didn't want to host them, and they happily use Party.
So how are you going to do it? Where are you
We
going to
handle there's a place in Arizona.
Mhm.
We handle all the ticketing. We handle like the payment processing, all the online stuff. Because conservatives get debanked, they get canceled.
Well, there was this movie that opened somewhere, I think it was in Australia. They only had 100 people. It was a shame. It really was. It was a Disney movie, Snow White. And I only had 100 people. And apparently Snow White is like Snow Dark because she hates America. She hates people. She wanted to die or something if Trump was elected, but she didn't. And I don't know how they've changed. They don't have, I'm very afraid to describe the original title of Snow White. Snow White and the a word we can't say anymore.
Oh, it's politically incorrect.
Oh yeah. Snow White and the vertically challenged little people. Or can you not say little people? Vertically challenged people.
Persons who are vertically challenged.
Yeah.
You got to lead with
Snow
people
White
first language.
and persons who are vertically challenged.
People who struggle with height.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that better.
Well,
Yeah, I'm sure Walt would have really loved that, doing a cartoon of that one.
well, with that, you're then insinuating that they're struggling, therefore it's an ongoing.
And she
Right.
doesn't need, and Snow
Yeah.
White,
Right. People
I
who are
don't-
proud of their small stature.
but Snow White didn't need a man to help her in this version. In fact, the Walt Disney movies, including Peter Pan, are making the point that women don't need men to help them, which is why that poor girl became partially paralyzed playing volleyball against a man. So I would think the damage that these people are doing to America is catastrophic, and it's knowing, and it's all because they're a bunch of communists.
It's important we fight back.
Yeah.
Us.
I think it's
sane
wonderful.
Americans.
I think it's wonderful that you're doing this. And I mean, this has been going on for some time with the movies, the movies about anything that has a moral point to it.
It's not just movies. Speakers are canceled. Gatherings are canceled. There was a Trump rally canceled. Imagine the president of the United States, and that's deemed too controversial.
Is it changing a bit?
Yes and no. I think that companies are still canceling, but they're being a little more subtle. But I would argue that's insidious.
You think, I'd like to do a program on the second half of Muhammad's life, where he was a committed mass murderer.
Right.
And I'll do it solely from original text. And I'll even bring an imam along, who's a Reform imam, and we'll show you that the religion was founded by a mass murderer, who is the first person to have been known to use mass grave for Jewish people. You think that would be a good movie? You think I'd get much of a?
Yes. And
It's
we'd handle
very,
your
very
ticketing.
exciting. Oh, I do the both parts of it. I would show Muhammad in his early stage trying to sell himself in Medina to the Jews and the Christians and the Arabs, and they all threw him out because thought he was crazy. He wasn't crazy. He was an epileptic, so they thought he was possessed by the devil. Now his message may have helped. He said that Gabriel picked him up on the Temple Mount and took him to heaven, and he met all of the prophets and apostles. And when he told the Arabs that, and then in the middle of it, he had an epileptic fit, they threw him out thinking he was possessed by the devil, and they didn't think he could fly. That was the other thing. They looked at him and they said he wings, and they didn't think he could fly up to heaven. So they threw him out. So then he went to see the Jews, and he told the Jews that, Moses was just another kind of a half-assed prophet, Muhammad was the big guy. And they asked him about Jesus, and he sort of, Jesus, who cares about Jesus? Just a little small fry prophet. And the Jews threw him out. Then he went to the Christians, and he told them that, Well, everything was good about their religion, but they had to get rid of the Trinity because they really weren't a true religion, because they were not monotheistic, and because of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the Christian theologians tried to explain to him the theory of the mystery of the Holy Trinity, which is it's one God with three manifestations. It is a monotheistic religion. And during that time, he had an epileptic fit, and they just thought he was stupid. You know, here they are trying to explain a little bit of a complex thing, and it got his brainwaves all messed up, and he falls on the floor and he's spitting at them. Now, remember, back in the 8th century, you start spitting at people, you're not a very good sales technique.
Right.
So between the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews got together, and they basically, from their point of view, threw the bum out. Well, the bum, as they describe, I'm saying I would never say that Muhammad was a bum.
You wouldn't want to get beheaded.
No, he was a lot worse than a bum. So what they did was they threw him out, and he went out into the desert. Now he had a group of completely uneducated people, totally uncivilized, didn't know what a book was, 8 camels. That's not the only thing they did with him. They 8 camels, and they all bought it. Yeah, of course, Gabriel took you up to heaven. Doesn't everybody go up to heaven?
Was this before or after he married the 6-year-old?
I don't know when he started. The girl thing. And the thing that is in doubt, and they do fight over, is whether he had a 13 or 14-year-old wife.
Oh.
But honestly, it looks like he did. So he decided, I'll get them all together. He trained them to fight. And now they had a new technique, and it worked really well. This is how they converted all that Middle Eastern. It really was it was a little different than Moses giving the 10 Commandments and Jesus giving the Sermon on the Mount. He came in with an army, and he grabbed the elderly people in the town and he slit their throat. And then he said, you're going to become a Muslim. And it worked.
Yeah. Who knew?
Here he was preaching, having epileptic fits. He was going nowhere. He comes in and he slits a few throats. Then then he found this one place that was the biggest. It was the biggest place for olive oil, and it was owned by a group of Jews. And it was the biggest producing thing in all of the desert, and everybody always wanted it. So he knew this was going to be tough, and this is where he did his mass grave. He went in and he took 10 or 12 of the elders. He lined them up. He personally stabbed them, or he did the coup de grace, and then he personally pushed them in the grave, and he let everybody in town watch. And he said, now you got to become Muslims, and I own it. And then eventually he came up, I think it was a guy who's a relative of Tommy the Bull Gravano, came up to him and said, hey, boss, we don't have to kill everybody. We can ask for money, like extortion. So now you give him a choice. You say, you can become Muslim, you can die, or you can pay us vig.
Jizya, yeah.
Give me half.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this is the guy. I'd say this guy had set up a perfectly similar RICO operation to John Gotti, Frank Costello, because you either die or you pay us money. Now, I studied religion from the time I was about 4 until the time I was about 21. And somehow, the second part of it just doesn't seem like a religion. In all my religious studies, this seems more similar to my mafia studies than it does to my religious studies. And I am offended by the fact that you can't tell the truth about it. Right. And you are all lied to about it. There are parts of the Quran that are beautiful. Early Muhammad, when he was trying to con you. There are parts of the Quran that are a terrorist manifesto of the worst kind, directed at you and the Christians they are presently killing in Syria today, tonight. Oh, sure, they killed Jews. You know that. But they've killed 1,000 Christians for every one Jew they've killed. And nobody tells you that. Okay.
Well, Mayor, so Aiden, I met Aiden back in 2016, maybe
17, I think.
2017.
Yeah.
And at the time, she was still a full-time resident of Canada. So she is Canadian. She's been involved with, or was
Well,
Canadian.
you want to get me into this?
Well, just before we go, I know we're well into soccer time, but I thought maybe we could
You
talk.
know I don't like
she-
to get into controversial things.
Well, maybe we could ask for her, as a conservative from Canada, maybe she can speak about this new Mr. Carney and the ongoings of Canadian politics.
Who's Mr. Carney?
Mark
The new
Carney.
prime minister. Canada has a new prime minister.
I heard him on TV. Is he really a prime minister?
Yeah, he was essentially chosen by 150,000 people.
He looks like
Imagine if the population of
he
one
looks like
state.
it looks like a bank teller.
He is.
Oh, okay.
He ran the bank of one of the international banks.
He ran the Bank of Canada, which is virtually broke.
Right.
Yeah, and the Bank of England, which is really broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good.
Wow, he's got quite a track record.
Maybe he can do worse than Castro's alleged bastard son.
Alleged. But he's very left wing. He's actually, I'd say, as left wing as Trudeau, or Castro, depending on what your thoughts on that are. But he's a lot more effective. And
What?
he's a lot more effective, and he's much smarter, which
So
means he could be far more damaging.
Like he says sentences that make sense and stuff
Right,
like
exactly. And so many of the Canadians are afraid of the tariffs and afraid of becoming the 51st state. Why? I don't know. I'm grateful to be here. I'm sure that they'd all enjoy it if
I'm afraid of it. They're being. I think the president. I mean, I never disagree with the president, except now. What the hell do I want a Democratic state for?
Well, they could be a territory. If they're a territory, they don't vote. Make it like a
Good.
big Puerto Rico.
Good, become a big Puerto Rico. I wouldn't let them vote. I mean, they seem if you vote I'm sorry, if you vote for a guy that even is alleged to be Castro's son, I don't want you to be part of the United States.
Fair.
And then you produce people like this jerk, who's a complete product of the World Economic Forum, a complete product of Gates and Klaus Schwab, who is going to Klaus Schwab is going to require me to have papers. And I'm deathly afraid of having papers because I've watched too many Nazi movies. And when they give you papers, shortly thereafter, they kill you. So whenever the government comes up and says, you must have papers, say no. I don't want papers. I don't need papers.
You could just take a conservative province or two, or you just knock Carney out of power.
I would make trade.
The accent came out a little bit there.
Where?
I
You know what
noticed the
like?
accent.
I like the Western part.
Yeah.
I like the cowboy part.
Yeah. Well, Calgary is the Texas of Canada.
Calgary Stampede.
Yeah. How fun would that be?
Yeah. You know where you get silly again? Must be something about that Pacific Ocean.
It's the weed.
It's like
They're
Colorado.
all potheads.
Yeah, there was a big murder in Colorado the other day, and I think the guy is going to plead. It was a murder because he couldn't see where he was going. There was so much marijuana and stuff in the air.
So funny.
You know, do you know that if you could test anybody in Colorado for marijuana and they would test positive because it's in the hair?
Right. Yeah. That's what happens when it's so ubiquitous.
I'm getting signs now. I'm getting signs says wrap up. Well, I hope everyone had a good time on St. Patrick's Day. Stephen had a good time. He's moving up and down and enjoying himself.
Got some Irish.
I do think the 51st state was a little unwieldy and a little. I seriously think. I don't have any inside information from the president, but I really do think the 51st state is to irritate more than it is for real. I think for real is Greenland and Panama.
Yeah.
Panama. Actually, other order: Panama, Greenland. No way a year from now the Chinese are going to be in Panama. Not going to happen. And in fact, he'd be crazy to keep them in Panama.
It's the same thing with Canada, though. There's a lot of Chinese influence.
Well, that's
that I
got to
think-
be unraveled.
Right.
Because first of all, we got to do it ourselves. We got a lot of Chinese influence.
Yeah.
Before we stop pointing at Canada, we have a lot of Chinese influence, all of which should be unraveled mercilessly, absolutely mercilessly. President and I don't agree on TikTok. We just don't agree on TikTok. I don't care who buys it. I don't care who deals with it. It's like spoiled property. Get rid of it.
It's degeneracy. It's making the younger
Gone.
generations insane.
Gone. Forget it. Anything connected with China. If they own property in the United States, let's pass an emergency law that they have decided they want to take us over, and therefore this is against our national security, and take the property back and throw them the hell out. They throw us out.
Mhm.
They don't allow you to own they don't allow you to own a property in China without them owning part of it.
Yeah. We can do to them what they do to us. It's only fair.
Well, what do you think of Canada?
I'm grateful I was raised there. I'm
Mhm.
disappointed.
Where? What
I'm
part?
from Toronto. I'm disappointed with the increasing anti-American sentiment that unfortunately existed before the whole 51st state talk. And I think that it's a great country with lots of natural resources.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I wish that Canadians knew how to use them and weren't so liberal.
Yeah, what causes that? Is it the marijuana?
I mean, a bit. I think it's the little brother syndrome. Americans are conservative, gun-toting, so they want to
But
be.
we're not. We have our own. I mean, we have as much internal left-wing deterioration and communist infiltration, and probably, on a per capita basis, we're pretty equal.
No, I
No?
would say that
You're
Canadians
more
are
left than we are.
me. No,
No, I know, but your country is in general.
Yeah, I'd say that they're significantly more to the left. I know San Franciscans who are considered who would be considered right wing in Canada, like typical San Franciscans.
I'm not getting undressed.
And I do think that Canada, because they've never had to worry about a defense, they've been able to spend on social services. Oh, matching dog tags.
Oh, nice.
We stand on the right side of history. But I think that because they don't have to worry about defense, they get to have lavish social programs now, which are actually failing my generation and younger. None of my friends can afford a home. None of them have doctors. None of them have healthcare. And I think that Canada would benefit from some more free market policies. I worry that conservatives in Canada are still far to the left. They would probably be at most Kasich.
Kind of like what
Republicans.
happened in Great Britain.
Right,
Where the Tory
exactly.
party, half the Tory party is left, half is right, but they won't join up with the more, or Germany.
Right.
Germany, where the right gets 49% of the vote, but 28% is the sort of Christian part right, part not right, and 21% is the far right, and the Christian 28% said we'll never take the 21% as the government. So then they end up having the government become socialist.
Right.
Because the tail wags the door.
Same thing with Canada. I think same thing with almost every country. I think that when we live in the States, we don't realize quite how blessed we
Yeah.
are. And
It was a little tough the last 4 years thinking we were blessed, but
But we still
as
are.
they were taking my grandfather's watch, I didn't think we were so blessed. I mean, we were a fascist country for 4 years, no doubt about it.
Thank
But
God Trump was
we're
elected.
not any longer.
Thank God.
This is not because I was drinking. It was because I wanted to take out and show her my similar bring the hostages home. By the way, how about we do bring them home? We've been talking about it long enough. And if they don't want to bring them home, just, go in and get them out.
Yeah.
If we had gone in and got them out right at the very beginning, at least half the number that would kill would not be killed. We are so good at extrication. It's hard for you to believe it. I've seen it. I know it. I'm not misleading you. Between our special forces and our rangers, we study it all the time. And they are perfectionists. If God forbid they go in and lose one person, they're a failure. Not one of their people. Well,
There's still an American there.
yeah.
A 19-year-old from New Jersey.
Well, God bless America. Pray
bless
for the
America.
people that are at war. They don't deserve to be at war. The only one who seems to care that the Ukrainians are at war is Donald Trump. Zelensky seems like he just wants the money to keep flowing, and Putin, doesn't care about human life. He never has. So don't let anybody romanticize Putin, except to point out, hey, we had to deal with Stalin, and and if we don't, he can destroy the world. So Doesn't mean we give in to them. It doesn't mean we kowtow to them. It means we push them around if we have to, but it also means we keep in our head every time we're talking to them, we're hopefully reducing the number of people that get killed. So thank you very much. And good luck with your wonderful enterprise.
Thank
It's
you.
fabulous idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We
for
may
this
need you.
opportunity.
We may need you.
Right.
God bless America.
USA.
On the first day of January 1892, they opened Ellis Island and they let the people through. The first to cross the threshold of the Isle of Hope and Tears was Annie Moore from Ireland, who was all of 15 years. Isle of hope, Isle of tears, Isle of freedom, Isle of fears. But it's not the isle I left behind. That Isle of hunger, Isle of pain, Isle you'll never see again. But the Isle of home is always on your mind. In her little bag she carried all her past and history, her dreams for the future in the land of liberty. But courage is the passport when your own world disappears. There's no future in the past when you're 15 years. Isle of hope, Isle of tears, Isle of freedom, Isle of fears. But it's not the isle I left behind. That Isle of hunger, Isle of pain, Isle you'll never see again. But the Isle of home is always on your mind. When they closed down Ellis Island in 1943, 17 million people had come there for sanctuary. And in springtime when I came here and I stepped onto its piers, thought of how it must have been when you're only 15 years. Isle of hope, Isle of tears, Isle of freedom, Isle of peace. But it's not the isle I left behind. That Isle of hunger, Isle of pain, Isle you'll never see again. But the Isle of hope is always on your mind. Isle of hope, Isle of tears, Isle of freedom, Isle of peace. But it's not the isle I left behind. That Isle of hunger, Isle of pain, Isle you'll never see again. But the Isle of home is always on your mind. But the Isle of home is always on your mind.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,